In this video series, we'll construct the best modern 12-man roster of NBA players who never made an All-Star game. Driven half by analytics, half by team chemistry, and the guiding ethos of Bill Simmons' secret from the Book of Basketball, we're optimizing a squad with the following rules. 1. All players have 0 All-Star selections. 2. We're building a championship contender. The regular season bears consideration, but we are really focused on the playoffs. 3. Modern NBA team. We're assembling a squad that fully embraces the analytics revolution, including spacing, defensive versatility, three-point shooting, etc. 4. We're assessing players' full careers. We're not interested in flash-in-the-pan guys. We're considering full bodies of work. Assume we're getting guys at their average overall powers. Before we jump into the roster, and we're going to start with the bench for a crucial reason, we should lay out which analytics we'll be using throughout. Since some guys came off the bench and we want to account for differences in pace by era, we'll be using per 75 possession stats. And we'll mostly be using the all-in-one player metrics from a wonderful niche site called craftednba.com. Why? Well, a few months ago, Brian Kalbrowski from hoopshype.com surveyed staff from more than half of the NBA, including coaches and directors at analytics departments, and asked them for their most trusted all-in-one composite stats. It just so happens that the plus-minus ratings from craftednba.com are the near-perfect blend of the most reliable stats according to NBA front offices. I have gone deep down the rabbit hole of advanced stats the past few weeks, and while none of them are perfect, I'm confident Crafted Plus Minus is the holy grail of metrics. We're kicking off with the non-starters because our team has a strategic edge no other team can touch, the deepest bench of all time. But how do we maximize the advantage of a deep roster with the limitation of 240 available minutes per game to spread around 5 guys? You guessed it, the bench is utilizing the full court press. Yes, we're borrowing this idea from Bill Simmons, who borrowed the idea from Rick Pitino. As he put it, their sole purpose would be to create havoc, wear opponents down, exploit opposing bench guys, and shift momentum. And they would. Would you want to bring the ball up against the press with these 5 guys prowling around like cheetahs? Whereas Pitino went overboard with its usage, we'd only use the murderous press in the playoffs, big in-season games with seeding implications, and sprinkled occasionally for lucrative matchups or to drastically shift game flow. Onto the players. Our big anchor is Marcus Camby, whose defensive accolades jump off the screen. 2007 Defensive Player of the Year, 4 all-defensive teams, and led the NBA in blocks 4 seasons. The Camby man's high on some historical lists as well. All time he's 15th in stocks, that's steals plus blocks, more than Scottie Pippen and Karl Malone, 12th in total rebounding percentage all time, and 9th in career block percentage. He lacks an all-star appearance because he simply wasn't a great offensive player. The Zoomass Minuteman was also saddled with great expectations as the second pick in the 1996 draft and is overlooked historically as a journeyman on 6 different teams. But he would thrive as a rim-running, glass-cleaning backup center in the last line of our defense. We are hopping to point guard for one of my favorite forgotten players ever, longtime Supersonic backup, Nate McMillan. He had 2 all-defensive teams and led the league in steals in 1994. By crafted defensive plus-minus, across retired players, he's the 4th best defending guard ever. But if you're skeptical about crafted NBA for some reason, for the more mainstream stat defensive box plus-minus, Nate McMillan has the highest single-season performance and is the 4th best player all time, sandwiched between Draymond Green and Ben Wallace. Staggering. He's also 3rd in steal rate all time, and steals are incredibly valuable. According to 538, compared to the other major box score stats, steals are worth about 9 points per game. I'm skeptical they're worth quite that much, but there's a strong case to be made they're the least replaceable basketball statistic. Nate McMillan is exactly the outlier we want. Mr. Sonic never made an All-Star game because he spent most of his career backing up Hall of Famer Gary Payton. GP was clearly a better two-way player and stole the stopper spotlight with his own 9 all-defensive teams. Offensively, McMillan had a balanced playstyle. racking up more assists than points in his career. Mac was a stellar rebounder for a guard, and after retiring became an NBA coach for 22 years running. All-world defense, the mentality of a budding coach, and he could handle coming off the bench as a primary or secondary ball handler because he embraced the secret. In his own words, "I've never had that ego of wanting to be the best player, but I do have that ego of wanting to win. So for me, it was whatever it takes to win, I will do. If that means being second to someone or third or down that totem pole, as long as we are playing right, playing together, and we're winning, then I'm okay. But if that's not happening, then I will challenge you and I will do whatever is necessary to give us a chance to win." Baby, that's the secret in a nutshell. Check out our backup shooting guard's resume. 5-time NBA champion, 8 all-defensive teams, and 1 Defensive Player of the Year, the only Laker to ever win the award. That's right, it's Michael Cooper, defensive anchor and ultimate glue guy for the Showtime Lakers. Coop was a 3-and-D wing before his time. His 34% three-point percentage might not impress you, but that was fantastic compared to the league at the time. With 100 as average, his league-adjusted three-point plus was 114. To give you a sense of scale, Steph Curry's three-point plus is 120. But Cooper cashed his checks on the defensive end. Hoops Habits' Josh Cornelison puts it best. Cooper was a lockdown defender, a true wing stopper, with the strength to fight through screens and defend larger players inside, and the foot speed to halt opposing guards. Take it from Larry Legend,
"The best defensive player ever guarded me was Michael Cooper. I'll take that to my grave with me."
Heartwarming fact, Cooper's trademark look of knee-high socks began in high school as a way of helping his grandmother, who had glaucoma, identify him when watching his games. And Coop learned most of his game from the big Momma herself. Coop was uncommonly strong for his size, an athletic rim finisher, and solid in transition, on both sides of the court. He did the dirty work in his homework in the film room. This dedication translated to a coaching career 27 years and running. It's a shame he never made an all-star team, but it's a travesty he's not in the Hall of Fame. Our first controversial pick, both for his play style and his case over a better overall player, actually his replacement, Danny Green, we have the infamous Bruce Bowen. 3-time NBA champ, 8 all-defensive nods, and countless inflicted injuries. Likely the second dirtiest player of all time, behind Bill Laimbeer, Bruce Bowen went undrafted in 1993, then languished for 7 years across as many teams, playing in France and the CBA until breaking out with the Heat in 2001. He landed in San Antonio the following year, where he'd spend the rest of his career. Bill Simmons lays it out. "There's no doubt in my mind, absolutely none, that at some point between Boston and San Antonio, Bruce Bowen decided to do whatever it took to remain in the NBA, even if it meant becoming a dirty player." That aside, Bowen was one of the best wing defenders in NBA history. His impeccable footwork was the foundation of his game, with elite lateral foot speed that allowed him to stick near all-time greats like Kobe and LeBron in isolation, and fight around screens while in pursuit in the half court. Teammate Sean Elliott called him the Rash because when Bowen plays D, he's all over you. While he was selected for 8 straight all-defensive teams, surprisingly the advanced analytics don't love Bowen. Out of our entire 12-man roster, Bowen is the only outlier as a negative player overall by advanced stats. Much of this is due to his paltry offensive output. He was essentially limited to taking corner threes, which he made at a 42% clip in the regular season, 45% in the playoffs. You could reasonably argue we should replace him with another 3-and-D guy with higher offensive upside, such as the aforementioned Danny Green. But Bowen deserves the nod for his psychological edge. He frustrated opponents with the most active hands of any defender, cutting off passing options and driving lanes. He forced difficult nights for his covers. He was an excellent ball denier and always kept a hand near his opponent's face. He got under people's skin, provoking them into settling for bad mid-range shots. If a star player was thinking about Bruce Lee Bowen instead of the game, he effectively won. And somehow, Bowen only amassed 7 flagrant fouls over his career. He would absolutely adjust his game to the modern setting and find other ways to live near the edge of the rulebook. Now maybe you hate him for his dangerous antics. Well, you can have another 3-and-D guy. I want the dude who walks into an away stadium and wants to hear the boos, who takes the spotlight off his teammates. I'm taking the heel. The antagonist who Sports Illustrated called the Iron Man of the NBA for playing 500 straight games into his age 36 season, probably because he was terrified someone would steal his starter spot. I want the relentless aggression, the fire in the belly of a man who would do anything to play in the NBA, anything to keep his job.
The only difference between me and a homeless man is this job. I will do whatever it takes to survive, like I did when I was a homeless man.
So we've got McMillan, Coop, Bowen, and Camby. We clearly need some offensive firepower.
Hey now, you're not an all-star of the NBA, but you did get your game on when you won the NBA's 6th Man of the Year award in 2011. Who are you?
McMillan is a fine ball handler, but we need a playmaker who can hold his own defensively as well.
Jim, Daryl, your time to shine. Sean Marion.
Yes, Sean Marion.
That doesn't sound right. I want to say LaDamian Washington.
Wrong for so many reasons.
The value pick here is clearly
Ron Artest, Kelly.
No, it's Lamar Odom. If it had been Ron Artest, it would have come up in Dancing with the Stars when they pan over his trophy case when he's at home with his family. Lamar winning 6th Man was a big storyline on Chloe and Lamar.
All right, board's up. Let's see who got it. Lamar Odom is what we were looking for. Lamar Odom.
two-time NBA champion, 2011 6th Man of the Year, and made his all-rookie team. According to the analytics, Lamar Odom was a much better defender than he ever gets credit for. Boasting a 7'4" wingspan, Odom was capable of guarding multiple positions and switching, making him a key contributor in the Lakers' championship runs. He was better known for his versatility on the other end, comfortable initiating offense from the perimeter, mixing up post play with agile drives and adequate shooting. His handle allowed him to serve as a primary or secondary ball handler. The Candyman never made an all-star team because he never fully actualized his talents. His rookie year with the Clippers, he averaged 16.6 points, 7.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. As noted by Josh Cornelison of Cited, only a dozen times in league history has a player ever put up those averages and not been an all-star, and Odom did that as a rookie. Everyone expected Odom to eventually make the leap, but he never did. The weight of great expectations. Sadly, Odom suffered a litany of personal demons off the court, which certainly hampered both his ceiling and longevity. Despite that, the gifted lefty was mostly regarded as a selfless teammate. Most players would resist coming off the bench, but when Phil Jackson moved Odom to the 6th man role, he quickly adapted, sacrificing his own stats to keep his teammates happy en route to securing his first NBA title. Impressively, our 5-man bench pressing unit earned a total 10 NBA titles and 22 all-defensive teams. For comparison, one of the best defensive teams of all time, the 2004 champion Detroit Pistons, had 12 all-defensive teams across their starting 5. Our bench's prowess on the defensive end is undeniable, but on possessions when they aren't generating turnovers and running in transition, how will they fare in the half court? Well, Bowen helps with spacing, mostly shooting efficient corner threes. Camby can set screens, slip around for easy buckets around the hoop, and crash the boards. Cooper is our always cutting glue guy, doing the dirty work and stretching the floor with occasional three-pointers. Finally, our high-usage little big man duo, McMillan and Odom, split ball handling duties, running some classic two-man game. It's no KD Warriors, but it'll do. Of course, most of their value comes from the full court press, which they can deploy at maximum effort for stretches at a time. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series, where we'll cover the starting 5. There will be some valuable synergies between the two units, especially from the playmaking power forwards. Let me know in the comments what you think, and post your own non-all-star bench pressing unit. And please like and subscribe.
Back action. Didn't know it was coming. Let's do that.